What's up, everybody? Welcome to this special live conversation. We've got a couple of team building masters, and we're going to mastermind a little bit. So we are live on Facebook right now. If you were listening after the fact, we appreciate you joining us either by audio or video. We've got Greg Harrelson. We've got Jeff Cohn in opposite sides in the red and the blue trunks, and we're going to have a little face-off here.
Here we go.
The only bad thing is that they may actually agree on too much, and so hopefully
True.
we'll find some things where they can yell at each other because I think
And
that'd be fun.
We're covering the entire country. Matt has San Diego, West Coast, Omaha's in the center, and we've got Myrtle Beach on the east side. So we're dominating today, boys.
That's right.
No doubt. Yeah, it's going to be it'll be a fun one. Jeff and I seem to argue and then end up like agreeing on everything. I think we just get a kick out of like stimulating each other and challenging each other and really pushing the envelope. And sometimes we push it even when it doesn't need to be pushed because we already admit that we agree. But I think a lot of great ideas come out of our relationship because we kind of go through that little dance together.
Yep, it's fun. Greg's a great guy. Greg's obviously selling thousands of houses in Myrtle Beach, runs very successful teams. He's a broker owner, I believe Century 21.
That's right.
But the thing that inspired me most, Greg, and I don't know if you remember this, the first time I ever saw him was 3 years ago. Frank Klezet, CEO of Viral Marketing, brought a camera into Greg's office. And if you guys have ever seen the movie Boiler Room, Greg's office is more intense than Boiler Room. He had cubicles set up. They still probably do.
Yeah.
And he expects his agents to come in 3 hours a week, 5 days a week. Or sorry, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week.
3 hours a day, 5 days a
seven to
week.
10. And these guys are nailing the phones, guys and gals, hitting the phones. And I think that you're a great inspiration and example to every agent in the industry who's not spending enough time with outbound prospecting, because that's the number one activity agents need to do more of. It is WORK, and that's what gets people results, and agents are so scared of it. So that's my intro to you, Greg.
Good, man. That is fantastic. Well, and I kind of share a lot of these things with you because, I cut my teeth on outbound prospecting for listings, and then I kind of retooled, never left that strategy and retooled, and then started going into more of the buyer business to bring that into the team, that into the company. So we're a little bit balanced as a team, as a company, but we could really accelerate the growth. And that's kind of where I leaned on you, Jeff, was because when I was just, I don't even want to touch a buyer, you were sitting here saying, Greg, you need to check out all this buyer business that you're missing out. And right. I'm yelling at you about the listing business that you're missing out. And then that's where the relationship really begins. So
it's interesting.
It's been
right.
fun. Yeah.
When I first met you, we were 75% buy side and we were 25% list side. Today I'm 40% list, 60% buy, and this segues nicely into the topic of today, which is how to make your company recession-proof, shift-proof. We are going to see a shift. We always will see a shift. We don't know when it is. I'm guessing it'll be sooner than later, but people guessed that 3 years ago. But it will happen, right, Greg, eventually?
Yes, 100%.
And so I would love to kick this off, Greg, with you speaking to when it happens, because you've been through one. I got into the business in 2006 and heard people saying, oh, the glory days. We'd list a house, multiple offers, you'd accept the highest offer, and you were done and playing golf in the afternoon and selling a house a day. That's happened again for a lot of us. If you can get the listing, in my market right now, in most markets across the country, that's where we are. So the shift we will see, and I'd love you to speak to the pain, is that right now we're sitting at 1 to 3 months of inventory in most cities across the U.S. Where it was in 2007 through 2009, for me, was 7 months of inventory. It was you listed as many houses as you wanted, and you didn't think very many would sell. And you had all these buyers that would just want to look at houses professionally, and they didn't want to buy. And so you're just spinning tires, and you're not getting anything done. So paint a picture for everyone that hasn't experienced this shift as to exactly what it's going to be and what it's going to look like. And then, of course, we can get into how do we prepare for that.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind as you're bringing this up, and I think this is such a timely topic that needs to be discussed, because I just wrote down in my notes that you need to be prepared for the next shift 3 years prior to the shift. So what I learned in the last shift is that the competition in my market, it took them 3 years before they started making adjustments. And then from there, they're just kind of starting at zero, changing their business models, and actually now starting to get a little bit more business. And here's why it takes 3 years. Like when the market shifts, the first year, you're going to be in denial and in depression. It's going to be shifting right in front of us. And we're going to say, oh my gosh, no, it's not. It's going to come back. Oh, this is just a temporary thing. It's probably just going to happen a month or two.
Who moved the cheese?
Yes.
You guys have ever read that book before? Who Moved the Cheese?
Go.
It's about some mice, and there's a big chunk of cheese, and they keep going back for the cheese even though it's gone. They assume it's coming back.
Yeah. So they'll be in denial. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of that first year, we'll be like, holy crap, this is really happening. And then depression will set in. It's like, what am I going to do? Oh, no. And then that's where we freeze, right? We keep going back for the cheese. It's not there. And then we go back. It's not there. Finally, we wise up. But when we wise up, we don't start moving forward. We actually stop. Oh, my gosh, what do we do? And then in year number 2, we shift into confusion. It's like, well, should I do this or should I do that? And then year number 3, we shift into desperation. And when we become desperate, we tend to fight the hardest and then start doing the things we need to do in order to accelerate forward. So back to the question, what are some, the thought is you've got to make the proper adjustments now. And the bottom line is this. It doesn't matter if you're working buyers or sellers. The bottom line is this. When the number of transactions go down in your market, the number of contacts you make must go up, period. That's it. We can talk all we want about direct mail and billboards, but you're not going to, as transactions are going down, guess what you're not going to do? You're not going to spend your way through a down market. What you're going to have to do is work your way through the down market, the shifting market. And so when you start to see the ratios in your market are starting to slip, then you need to immediately start improving or increasing your contacts. So you don't have to do less business, but you will have to have more conversations to do the same business, and you have to do an incredibly or a massive amount more to actually grow your business in the downturn.
Love it. I'm going to agree 100%. I launched my team in 2006, my first year, 2011, and my first year we went from 70 deals to 240. Do you remember 2007? How did we do that? Our whole focus was internet leads. And I had the belief that if I had the buyer, I had the sale. If we had a buyer, they signed an exclusive agency, we're making money at some point. We just need to find them the right house. I didn't want listings because listings were taking 6 months to sell. So our team grew being buyer focused. And what I did strategically is I built a team that no matter what shift we're in, we're going to be successful with the lead gen being buyer focused to begin with. 2,000 internet leads a month are coming down our pipeline. And all of my agents are trained on how to work buyers. But today, we want them working sellers. So we're engaging their sphere more often than we would have in the past in 2007. The challenge is if you're a sphere-based team, your sphere isn't going to want to sell their house in a buyer's market. Your sphere is going to want to sell now. So what happens is you talked about the denial, depression, confusion. When you just work off your sphere and it's so easy and you're making all this money because of all these friends you have, those same people are not listing when it goes back to a buyer's market. So you have to have a vehicle which is going to generate buyer business, and then obviously have human capital to service that buyer business. You guys have done an amazing job with your outbound lead generation through outbound calling. You can call your sphere. They're just not going to be ready to do anything. So my focus has been internet lead generation and outbound prospecting, just listed, just sold, expired, FSBO. You can do that today. Your agents are as are mine. The best place today, though, and you can argue this point if you want, would be to focus on sphere of influence because they should be selling before the recession hits.
Yeah, we can't sell anybody on doing anything we don't believe. But if you do believe that your market is at the top, then it is your duty. It is your absolute duty to be communicating this to the consumer. Now, I'm not saying go out there and talk about doom and gloom. But and we're not financial advisors, we're far from financial advisors, but if your financial advisor knew or had a hunch that there was a high probability that what you invested in was going to suffer in the near future, and he knew it and did not tell you, you would claim that he committed malpractice.
Love it.
We have to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, are we committing malpractice? And I'm not saying we necessarily are or are not right this minute, but we're all going to have a moment where this is going to be our dilemma.
Yep. Nope, I love it. Let me share this with you. I know for a fact, I have friends across the country. I own a huge flipping empire now and a rental home acquisition business and multifamily. There are investors today that are also licensed agents that have so few of listings that they're selling off their listing inventory so that they can cover their expenses every month. But they're doing so advantageously, strategically, knowingly that if they can sell today, in 2 to 3 years from now, they'll go back and purchase 2 homes for the amount they get selling the one. When you see a professional in an industry start to offload their listing inventory, their investment property, that's a really good indicator that there's something coming right around the corner. And I think we're seeing that more and more today.
Yeah, the savvy buyers, savvy property owners, savvy investors, the smart money's always out of the market before the market crashes.
Yep.
Smart money leaves the market first. Smart money comes in the market last. Well, it comes back in the market first, I should say, when, right before the uptick. But it's all about being first. And so in my market back in 2006, 2007, we crashed pretty hard because we have a high concentration of condos. And so this is where I had a dilemma. I believed wholeheartedly, based on all of my projections and analyzation of the market, that the market was going to continue to go down. It was a condo market. People were buying 5 or 6 of them sight unseen, thinking that they were just buying for appreciation. It was kind of like things we hear in Florida and Miami, maybe not as severe, but pretty darn severe. We were in the category of Florida, Vegas, Myrtle Beach, and Arizona. We're all in that same category, okay? Mm-hmm. So what ended up happening is I took a risk. And before 2007, in 2006, I was aggressively myself and training my agents to get price reductions. And what was interesting is like all of the competition in my market started talking behind my back, claiming I was the reason why the market was going down.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like, okay, no, man, you know what? If Greg would stop reducing these prices, then, because he's reducing this price, and then now he's selling it for a lower price than the last sale, he's the reason the market's going down. I actually, looking back and say, well, that was one hell of a compliment, right? For them to think that I had that much power.
Right.
But the reality was, the market was going down in spite of us. Nobody can stop it. Water will always find the lowest point, period. We will not be able to stop it. So I wanted to be on the front end, serve the consumer at the highest level. And then later on, what ended up happening is I was getting my clients out of these investments earlier than the competition, which means my people were losing less.
Right. Love it.
And that was a risk.
Love it.
That was a risk.
The next point I want to bring up, being recession-proof, ongoing training, your agents are going to freak out. So we talked about this experience. Maybe a Greg, a Matt, or a Jeff can handle that pressure, that depression, that change, the functionality there. Agents don't like change. Most strong agents are on IS. They want it to be systematic. They want to know what they can expect. We as leaders have to be able to define and reverse engineer the work the agent has to put in to get a certain result. And Greg mentioned that in a buyer's market, they have to just simply make more outbound calls. Every year for the last 6, we've tracked how many outbound calls equate into one transaction and how much commission comes off that one. For us in Omaha, it's 150 currently. 150 outbound calls gets us one sale worth $6,000. So if it goes to a buyer's market and that number goes to 250, we as the leader, the onus is on us. It's our responsibility to be able to provide the agent the breakdown of what that number is, so we can empower them with that knowledge so that they know they're still going to have a sale. They're just going to have to work a little bit harder to have it. The last thought I have on that is buyers typically, we've found, if an agent services it from outbound prospecting to servicing the showings and writing the contract, it's a 20-hour relationship in our market to make 2.4%. The listing is a 10-hour relationship from start to finish to make 3.6%. So not only will they have to make more outbound calls to find more opportunity, it's going to take them twice as long to service it. And that's where, if you're a leveraged real estate team where you offer a contract to close solution for those agents, and you offer showing assistants and sign runners and all the front end lead generation solution, your agents can spend their time doing the most highest producing activity, which to me continues to be outbound prospecting via phone. And number 2, meeting with clients to share buyer presentations, listing presentations, and having that client sign an exclusive buyer agency and exclusive listing agency agreement. And outside of that, I like to see teams that can start to put other people, boots on the ground, human capital, to trade that time for money so that your agents can spend their time doing the higher income producing activities. And I think you'll have to see more of that when we do shift into a buyer's market.
That's great. As I'm listening to you, one thing I hope the audience pulls from your conversation just then is that Jeff is in the business of building, servicing, and coaching a group of real estate agents. Like, I didn't hear him just talk about being in the real estate business. Now, we know you're in the real estate business. I'm in the real estate business. But, we are talking about teams, and, and you are just very well known for team building and whatnot. And we got the great event we're going to be doing in Omaha soon. But, the bottom line is you just talk like you're a businessman and your clients are your agents, not the buyers and the sellers. They're your agents. You're like, hey, I've got to be the one that knows these numbers, and when there's a shift, I've got to know the shifted numbers, and I've got to communicate them and equip them to succeed. So anybody that's out there that has a team, thinking about building a team, I just want you to observe that mentality that Jeff just demonstrated is true leadership, and is why one of the reasons why your team's so successful. I
Wow, thank you.
thought that was
Appreciate
worth
that.
noting.
No, I appreciate that. And that takes self-actualization, guys, to even for Greg to obviously diagnose that and then obviously be willing to extend that to the listeners here. I appreciate it, and I like you looking at patterns. And what I have found is we've gone out and traveled the country and met with top people like you and Matt and Greg McDaniels. The list goes on and on. We found patterns in their business that exude success. And one of the patterns I feel that has helped me, and it's been learned. It wasn't something that came natural, and I can give credit to a lot of other people. But the reverse engineering mindset came from Frank Klesitz. He had recommended a book 6 years ago called Predictable Revenue. And if you essentially create, I call it clarity. In sports, it's flow, where you're just on, you don't think, you just go, and it's all your subconscious. You have to create that foundation for your team, no matter which market we're in. And if you're confused as the leader, you can definitely bet the people that are choosing to follow you are just as confused. So you just simply have to have a roadmap. And if you're tracking your numbers and you have good analytics, you'll have that roadmap. And usually, as you pointed out, it's going to take more work. In the other market, there might be more work as a result of the fact that the market's going to shift. But if the agents know what work is necessary to be done, then there doesn't need to be confusion and fear. They just need to step up and do the work necessary.
Yeah. Tracking numbers, analytics. I tell stories all the time in my company I repeat them a lot of times, but I surely tell the new people. And that is, tracking numbers. There's in our industry, so many people resist the tracking and the reviewing and then taking action on the numbers. But there wouldn't be a person listening or a person in the real estate industry that if they were on a big boat in Miami right now and they were going to, sail off or go off to Cuba or Puerto Rico or somewhere, the Bahamas, there wouldn't be one person that would get in that boat without instruments to make sure that they're tracking as to whether or not they're staying on the right path to get to the destination. Because at some point, like in real estate and like in being in that boat, you're going to be looking in 360 degrees and you will not see land. When you can't see land and you're in the middle of nothing but water and sky, what the hell do you rely on? You rely on the instruments. And that's what we're talking about. There's instruments, there's numbers that we can just look at, and it tells us everything we need to know about where we are and what shifts we need to make in order to stay on track or accelerate.
Love it. I can't believe how many agents I'll meet in a recruiting meeting and ask how many sales they had the year before, what their gross production was, what their net was. Everyone says, I don't know. And my question then is, well, what was your tax liability? What did you have to pay tax on? How much did you pay in taxes? That's how I get to the brass tacks of what they earned, because they don't know. How can you not know? It's crazy to me that someone chooses to not know that. Now, I will mention for the leaders listening, it's your responsibility to help your followers know, because they're not going to do it. That's why they choose to be with you. You're going to do it for them. You're going to show them, just like the cruise ship, I don't have instruments. I'm just there to chill.
Yeah.
And so are your agents. Unfortunately, they're just there to chill too. You have to give them and empower them with those tools and resources to help them make the best decision so that they're spending their time in the right place. Tim Ferriss in his book, 4-Hour Workweek, talks about the 80-20 rule. I want to mention this. I think it's a great mindset. He says that 20% of your input will get you 80% of your output, and he likens it unto a bean field a mile square. And he says that when you plant a bean field a mile square, that 80% of the crop comes out of 20% of the ground. And when we look at how we spend our time year in and year out, we as leaders help our individual agents diagnose the results they got from the time they spent. I know how many hours a week, how many hours a month, and how many hours a year my agents spend prospecting. I know who they call, when they call them, why they call them. I even know how many showings they go on with from every buyer source and every listing source. I know how many showings my listings get before they go under contract. And by having this information, what it does for me, it's not just to geek out and push my glasses tighter and tell everyone about the cool numbers. Next year, when Greg or Danny or Jessica comes to me and says, Jeff, how should I spend my 50 hours of prospecting? I'll say, where did 80% of your deals come last year? That's where you should spend 80% of your time and put 20% of your time into 2 or 3 other areas. You're always leveling up and finding the best use of your time based on your God-given talents. And most brokers and team leaders I see say, spend a third of your time here and a third of your time here and a third of your time there. And that might be right for the first year. But once you've gotten through your first year, you can actually look through and reprocess where the results came from and then help your agents level up so that they can make the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, at the end there, when somebody's coming new, you have to use kind of like a rule of thumb. There is no data. But then after the first 90 days, then you have some data. It's probably not a big enough sampling, but if you compare that small sampling of data, like what their ratios are compared to the rule of thumb, then you may adjust the plan. And then the next 90 days, which now puts you at the 6 mark, it's a little bit bigger sampling of data, and you compare that again to what you were doing before, and you keep making those adjustments. Next, you know, a year later, you've got a good enough sampling of data where you can pretty much predict. Your business becomes duplicatable, predictable, and duplicatable at that
Love
time.
It. You know, we talked about Who Moved the Cheese, which is a great book if you haven't read it, and ultimately it is the picture I painted of the mice trying to show up. What we're just now talking about is literally identifying where the cheese is at. So when someone first joins the team, call expireds, call FSBOs, door knock, open house, tell your sphere, send letters, recall people. But all of us have a unique edge in one of those areas. We'll find that we'll get 80% of our deals from one of those areas. But so often we have yet to self-actualize and really identify where did all of my deals come from. And that is one of the components of tracking. And this also applies to human capital. Where did your best admin come from? Where did your best recruits come from? Go back and look at the activities that brought those people in, track what brings them in, and then obviously level up in the area that you find you're getting the most results.
Yeah, that's awesome. If I can add one more thing, because I'm just, I wrote something down here, and I was talking with my team about it yesterday on our company a weekly coaching call, and that is my statement was, and you probably have heard this before, you wake up unemployed every day. In the business of real estate, you wake up unemployed. And unlike when you work for somebody else, you get a W-2, you wake up, you're employed. Whether you go to work, go in late or whatnot, of course you can't do it too often, you'll get fired. But the bottom line is there's a big difference in waking up and unemployed versus waking up employed. One of the differences is this. When you wake up employed, and you're already employed, you typically have a lower ceiling on what you can earn. If you're willing to take the risk and be in a business like real estate and wake up unemployed every day, usually your ceiling is a lot higher. The difference, though, is accountability. And so I just challenge everybody out there to, especially if you're thinking like, what's the mentality got to be when the market shifts? Your mentality has to be every time you wake up, you understand, I am unemployed when I wake up, but it's my choice as to whether I'll still be unemployed when I go to sleep. So you don't have a choice when you wake up. You're unemployed, but you do have a choice to take action and do something about it and make sure you find somebody to employ you. So I just recommend when that market shifts, you better already have that type of mentality because the days are going to be long. Some of the things that you're going to have to do are going to be tougher, and it's going to be the mindset that gets you through this.
Love it. 19 out of 20 agents are out of the business in 2 years. We've identified already in this call within 25 minutes probably 3 or 4 major factors that attribute to the fact that 19 out of 20 are out. Number one, I would say, is leadership. These are going to be the same things that are going to be the reason people won't make it in a shift market. Number two, you just nailed accountability. How many agents in the country have someone that checks in with them every week to make sure they're doing the things necessary to be successful? Most of the people I meet with will say no one, and I'll say your broker doesn't do it, your team leader doesn't do it, your spouse doesn't do it, your best friend doesn't do it. Who's holding you accountable to these things that you say you're going to do to be able to get the results that you want? Number three is training. If you're not with a team or a leadership team or a brokerage that's training you, join Elite Real Estate Systems and or go find a team that's going to train you and level up. Greg just talked about this call that he does with his group. Greg, what other training do you guys offer on your teams?
So every Tuesday I do a call with the group where it's a live call. I'm archiving that, recording it, archiving it. And then every month there's 3 different boot camps that are going on, and every month it'll be a different boot camp, but every month there's 3 subject matters. There's a buyer boot camp, a seller boot camp, and a data boot camp. And the data boot camp is like, how to monitor, how to leverage data in a listing presentation, how to leverage data against competition, how to leverage data in a negotiation, all those things. So it's very data driven. My CFO actually gives that, and it's a different subject on data every single month. And the same thing goes for listings, same thing goes for buyer. That's all in webinar format. So people sign up. It's for free, obviously, for the people on the team. They sign up. It's done webinar style, and then, of course, everything's archived with recording and then gets dumped into this company membership website that I have. It's kind of like one of those memberships you log in, and it's got all, like a lynda.com. You log in, and it's got all the content that I'm creating that I'm not releasing to the public. Like these podcasts might be linked there, but this is content that's exclusively for the agents that I'm training them, inside the office, and I don't let it out. So, man, I'm just bombarding them with content and education all the time. Every day something's going on.
You guys have heard the sentence, leaders serve their followers. And as you pointed out about my mindset, my agents are my clients. I'm here to serve them. I'm here to support them. I know the end client's the consumer, and I help them do that as well, better than anyone else in our own marketplace, to continually help give them a competitive edge. Thinking about more recession-proof strategies, something else I'd employ everyone to consider doing if they haven't already. We talk about not selling real estate and building real estate businesses. I constantly tell agents, don't sell real estate, build a business. Even if you're servicing today, you can have the mindset that it's a business. It's not just a job where you're trading time for money. One area I would recommend everyone spend more time is creating a profit and loss statement. MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, does a good job outlining the categories that my accountant follows. You could probably find that online. But ultimately, you need to know how much money it takes to run your business so that when the business shifts, you stop spending the money on the things that are no longer necessary with that who moved the cheese mentality. So today, I have lenders and vendors contributing $8,500 a month to lead gen. Tomorrow, depending on where the market goes, we might scale that back and redeploy that capital somewhere else. You need to know how much you're spending on admin, showing assistants, overhead, office rent. You really need to take a deep dive. While you're a fat cat, you might not have to worry about it as much, but I know a lot of people end up leaving this industry and others because they're overspending and they're not prepared for a shift. So have an exit strategy of what would I do if my team did half the production next year as it did today? Who would you let go? In what order would you let them go? Would you simply move someone to part-time instead of full-time? Would you change your commission structure? So these are the questions I think most of us should be asking, including you and me, Greg, for when this shift takes place, not if it takes place.
And if we do this frequently, like if I'm doing this monthly and I'm reevaluating this every single month, I will admit that the answer is going to be no to a lot of the questions that I ask myself, like, should I change this? Should I change that? A lot of times they're going to be no, because I'm looking at it so much. I'm micromanaging it, right? But that 1 or 2 times that you say, you know what, I don't need to do this anymore. Those are the things that you cut, and all of a sudden you see no impact except more profitability. Jeff Cohn was doing this years ago where he says, man, I don't know, Greg, if you look at your credit card statements and at your company every month, but I look at them every month, and I take a highlighter, and I ask my bookkeeper, what is that? What is that? What is that? Because so many times we'll go sign up for something, and we forget to cancel it or whatnot. Yep. And that's something that he taught me to do years ago. And I'm telling you, every other month, I'll find something. And maybe it's only a $10 a month thing, and it doesn't really make much of a difference, but it makes a lot of difference from the mentality and me being responsible as a businessman. The $10 may make no difference in my life, but it makes all the difference because it means that I'm actually watching it.
Love it. And I'd also recommend apply that practice to your personal credit card. Your personal
Absolutely.
life. What are you spending money on? I mean, I think we've had stuff like Hulu.
I don't want to
Netflix
see I don't want to see all the Amazon charges, man. The boxes are just coming in, man.
Like, man, the kid's got my login again. Come on.
Right? Exactly.
Well, think about if Tony Robbins had done that. I mean, he might have avoided, what was that, $750,000 loss from his
oh, no, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it was a story from the early 90s. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, let's dive into this mastermind, or this team building summit. So we had the vision of helping real estate agents not sell real estate and start building businesses that helped other people sell at a higher level. Greg and I have already been doing this for years, but we want to help more people, and we have a passion behind paying it forward, an abundance mentality. So we decided to launch the inaugural Team Building Summit event. It's in Omaha, Nebraska, May 8th, 9th, and 10th. It's $297 to go to this event. We have Greg Harrelson coming to speak. He's one of the top. Are you the top 3 in the country, Greg?
You
guys number
really
1?
Look. I don't know. You tell me.
We're saying number 1. Greg's the number 1 team leader in the country. He's going to be there. I'm going to be speaking. We also have Spring Benson, who has expansion teams, Greg McDaniels and Johnson, who are expanding the West Coast with EXP. And then we have the CEO of Viral, the CEO of Rockerbox, 2 representatives from both Dotloop and Boomtown that are going to be present. I'm going to be bringing top team leaders from my real estate team up on stage and doing panel interviews talking about why they choose to stay with us. I also have one of my best friends who lost his father and brother in a devastating plane crash. He's going to talk about how that inspired him to quit his job and start and pursue his passions in life. It's 2 days of content. So if you want to learn more about that, go to the teambuildingsummit.com. You can sign up on Eventbrite. I think net with hotel and airfare for most places in the country, you're under $1,000, and there is going to be so much value. We are breaking even on the event. We're not making money. The goal was to pay it forward and help the real estate industry. It's the first ever team-specific convention, and we'd like to invite all of you guys to attend. So there's 30 days before the event. You still have time to line everything up. Please make it one of the events you attend every year. I promise it's going to be life-changing.
I'm looking forward to being there. It's going to be fun. Never been to Omaha, but looking forward to that also to see what that's all about. But I tell you, the content, I know the content that's going to come out of this, this event's going to be extraordinary. I mean, hell, just look at me and you just talking. I mean, I guess I think the content we talk about is good. The audience will have to tell us whether or not, I'm accurate or not. But as I look back and listen to the podcast over, I'm sure I'm going to pick out nuggets. So
yeah, absolutely.
I sure do hope we have a good crowd, and I think we will.
The really unique thing about this event as well is we have VIP tickets that are $497. We're going to do breakout lunches both days. Anyone that buys the VIP ticket will spend 90 minutes with all the VIP speakers and CEOs. So it's not going to be Q&A in a panel format. It's just going to be rubbing shoulders, sitting down, having intimate conversations. And for anyone that's gone to an event before, that's the value. You get to be with like-minded individuals and have access to individuals who've scaled their businesses way further than we ever dreamed possible. For me, and Greg, I'm sure you follow suit, I never thought I'd be where I am today. I didn't know I was capable of getting here, and no one listening needs to compare themselves to Greg or to me, and there's always a bigger fish. Greg does twice as many deals as me, maybe even 3 times. It doesn't matter where everyone else is. It matters where you are, and each and every year, it's all about leveling up in every area of your life. So ask yourself, what are you doing to level up your team, or what are you doing to level up individually within your business of selling and servicing real estate? Are you investing 10% of your revenue in yourself, in self-development, in conferences, in books, and podcasts? Most people aren't investing enough. So this workshop, this event, this summit is going to help you decode the strategies that Greg and I have implemented, as well as our other guest speakers, in building and scaling a successful business. I make a net over $1 million a year right now, spending 5 hours a week on my real estate team. And it's given me the ability to start 10 other parallel businesses that run in conjunction with Omaha's Elite. That sentence, after I say that, I feel like I'm lying to the audience. Like, that happened for me. And I can share and show, as well as Greg, and he has a ton of successful ventures as well. We will share and show you exactly what we've done to get to where we are. So if you want a piece of that, you want to be a part of that, go to the teambuildingsummit.com, sign up right now. Who wouldn't sign up? Who couldn't sign up? I feel like I'm on an infomercial right now. If you sign up today, you'll get 50%. So that's all I got. Johnson, anything to add to that Team Building Summit pitch?
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to be there, and it's actually Omaha is quite beautiful in May, believe it or not. A lot of people come around that time. You'll miss out on the College World Series crowd, at least the all the hubbub that goes around that, because you'll miss it by a few weeks. But yeah, Omaha's beautiful that time of year. It's going to be an awesome time. The venue that Jeff has got lined up is going to be beautiful. It's in the newer part of downtown, so everything's brand spanking new. Great hotels. It's going to be a great experience all the way around. So yeah, and those breakout lunches and the panels where we can really get you're going to hear stuff that you literally would never hear anybody else anywhere else. And someone like Greg, that's at literally the top level masterminds for all the top teams and with the brokerages across the country, to get access, personal in-person access to guys like that in an informal environment where you can ask questions and actually get real answers. that is priceless. That's all I got to say.
And I can,
Awesome.
and I will say one thing. I will give you a real answer. Because I'm not attached to
He's
being
not
liked.
lying.
I'm
Yeah,
not
he's not
attached
lying.
to being liked.
He
I'm attached
honestly
to being
doesn't want to be
effective.
liked. He actually tries to not be liked. I think he tells people what they don't want to hear on purpose, just to get under your skin. I will say as well, if you own Berkshire stock, Berkshire A or B, the national worldwide Berkshire Hathaway conference where Warren Buffett speaks about the state of his company, that's on May 5th. So there are a handful of people flying in early. If anyone wants to come, I can get you tickets. I own a lot of B stock, and that's not the special one. The one everyone bought like in the 70s that made a lot of Omaha families rich was A stock. For like $10, it's worth like $250,000 a share right now. But if anyone wants to come early and needs tickets, just Facebook message me, and I can get you tickets and get you into that event. It's like 2 days before our event, so you can just hang out in Omaha. And like Matt said, Omaha is gorgeous in May, so it's going to be a great time, you guys, if you want to come out.
Cool. All right, guys. Greg, Jeff, thank you very much for doing this last minute. This was absolutely fantastic, exactly what we all had in mind. And I know we got comments from people just saying like how amazing the content is today and like sharing it and tagging people saying, hey, we need to watch this and listen to this after the fact. So yeah, you guys really brought it today. So we appreciate everybody's time. Thank you to everybody that joined us live here on Facebook. And if you're listening to this after the fact as a podcast, we appreciate it as well. Make sure to subscribe either on iTunes or Stitcher, or you can grab the video versions on YouTube. And with that said, guys, thanks so much. And we'll see you everybody on the next one.